Good morning and welcome to this episode of Beyond the Photo with me, Damien Jackson. In this video I'm at the Upper Lake at Killarney National Park. It's getting on for 7:15 a.m. in early October and I've got about 15-20 minutes until sunrise. What I'd like to do is use this boat here in the foreground. Unfortunately it's pulled up a little bit more than I'd like out of the water and that might be difficult to get a composition on it. There is a second boat out further that I might use a long lens later. In terms of the weather, there was a lot of rain overnight, but the sky has half cleared now, so it's exactly what I want in terms of cloud and clear sky. So I'm hoping that some of the clouds will catch some colour as the sun comes up. So I'll check back in with you in a few minutes. The Upper Lake is situated about 14 kilometres from Killarney, along the N71 towards Kenmare. It's the smallest of the three lakes of Killarney, the other two being Muckross Lake and Lough Lean. The Upper Lake is separated from the other lakes by a winding channel which is almost 4 kilometres long. The lake is 1.7 kilometres or roughly 420 acres in size, and contains, amongst others, brown trout and salmon. Today I start shooting from here, and this is the rocky outcrop that I move to later in the video. Here you can see the winding channel that I spoke about earlier, as it works its way through the landscape back to Lough Lean. Coming from Killarney, access is from a little car park on the right hand side of the road. Now there are a lot of these, but this one is about 1 kilometre after you go through the little tunnel carved into the rock on the N71. If you haven't been here before, I recommend a visit because access is so easy and almost always it turns up trumps. Okay, so I'm set up just for a composition before the sun comes up. There is a lot of cloud around, so it is quite moody, and a little bit of that hanging over the mountains in the background as well. I've just put on a graduated filter because the sky is quite bright, and obviously the foreground here is still in shadow as it's not quite light yet. So let's take a look at my composition here now. You can see on the right hand side of the frame I have the boat, and it's slightly angled so it's leading into the middle of the frame. And then on the left hand side you have this tiny little gully or stream that's also there. So both of those are coming from either side of the frame, leading straight into it, and then you have the mountains in the background then. So if I do get a bit of colour, it won't be bad. As I say, I just wish the boat was more in the water than it is, but gotta make do with what we have. My first image of the morning, and I have to say I'm happy enough with it. I think there's a nice mood to it, and I've tried to add to that in post-processing by just reducing the saturation a little bit, just to get that pre-dawn look about it. Okay, so things are starting to look up a little bit. There's a lovely bit of colour coming into the clouds, and they're just sitting on top of the mountains. So what I've done is I'm just putting on an ND here, and I'm hoping to get maybe a 30-second exposure. The boat is up out of the water, so I've no issues with anything moving. I might get a little bit of movement in the clouds, but that'll only enhance the photo anyway. Not sure how well the video camera is picking it up, but the scene is starting to pop quite nicely. Just 12 minutes separate this image from the previous one. Just shows you how quickly it gets bright in the morning. Same composition here, the only difference being the addition of the 6-stop filter. I've put on the 70-200 lens now. There's a lone boat sitting out there on the lake, and in the background you have some nice light on the mountains themselves. So I'm going to try maybe a 3 or 4 shot panorama, sweeping from left to right, and see how that goes. Now it is starting to rain, but thankfully I have a good lens hood on the 70-200. It's nice and deep, so that should be okay. Okay. Certainly not one of the greatest panoramas I've ever taken, but I think it's worth leaving in, as you know, it's part of the story of the morning. At that stage, the colour had gone out of the sky, so I decided I'd move on and try and get some more compositions. So I walked around to my left, around the edge of the lake. Now you do need Wellingtons for this. And then I climbed up this rocky outcrop that you can see here in this photograph. And from there you can see the other side of the lake. So I've come right up to that rocky outcrop that I shot in the panorama earlier and got up on top of it, and as you can see the lake extends beyond that, and there's another little boat there sitting on the lake. Now what I'm going to try and do now is, there's still a little bit of heather left just in front of me there, and a bit of forest bush, so they're providing a nice little bit of colour. So if I could use those as a foreground, then capture the boat and then all the way up into the mountains in the background. As you can see, there's still some nice light on the mountains. So what I'd like to try and do is take a fast shutter speed first of all, to keep the heather and the forest bushes and the boat sharp, and then maybe put on an ND filter and bring it up to maybe 15 or 20 seconds to smooth the water, and then blend the boat and the actual header into the one image and see how that goes from there. So I'm going to give that a go. Apologies if the audio is bad. There's a lot of wind up here on top and things are blowing around a lot, so I don't know if you'll be able to hear me for the next few minutes, but we'll have a go at it anyway. I'm going to take my first shot now, the fast shutter speed, to freeze the heather and the fir bushes. Now I reckon it's blowing so much that I'm going to have to go up to 1/500 of a second. And that means I'm going to have to put my ISO up to 800 just to get enough light in the foreground here. Once I've that done, then I'll put on the ND, the 10 stop, and I'll switch over to a long exposure. So here we go. I'm just going to put in the 10 stop, then the graduated filter in front of that, just to keep back that sky, because the lake is really in shadow, and bring my shutter speed all the way down to, I'm going to try 25 seconds. Now I'm going to put it into manual now, because it's already focused here on the header in front, and with the 10 stop it'll only start hunting around for focus again. So switch it to manual, 2-second timer, and let it cook away there for 30 seconds. So I'm not sure whether the blend is going to work or not, but it's always worth trying something different when you're out and about. Not too bad of an image for that late in the morning, considering the colour was well gone out of the sky. And what I did learn was that 1/500 of a second wasn't enough to freeze the heather and the forest bushes.
in the strong wind that was up on the outcrop. So I'll probably, next time I'm in that situation, I'll probably look to go up to 1,000 of a second or so. I do like the effect of blending the two images, but it won't be to everyone's taste. But sure, look, each to their own.
So I've just come down off of the rocky outcrop and it's not as windy here. My composition from here is I'm actually looking back up the lake in the opposite direction in which I've been shooting all morning. And as you can see, there's a lone boat out on the lake and the sun is just starting to pop up from behind the mountains and lighting up these mountains here in the background, and some of the time it's catching these ones here on the right hand side itself. Now the boat is in shadow, but I might be able to make that pop a little bit in post-production. So again, I'm going to try a similar technique here. First of all, I'm just going to take a short shutter speed, and if I like that, because the lake is quite calm at times, well, that'll do on its own. But I'll also take a long shutter speed as well, maybe 25 seconds, with the option of blending them together later in post. So this first one now is just 60th of a second at f11, and it's actually, some of the clouds are moving in, so it's quite moody. Not a bad image at all here. It might actually do fine on its own without having to blend. But just in case I want to blend, it's always good to have the option. I'll put on a 10 stop filter now. Okay, so I'm already focused on the boat. I'm going to turn it to manual, leave it at f11 and bring it up to maybe 25 seconds and see how I got on.
My final image of the day. In the end, I didn't bother with the blending of the two images. This one is at 1/60th of a second and the water was quite smooth. So what I did then was I used the brush tool in Lightroom and I reduced the clarity and the sharpness on it. And that just smoothed it that little bit further. So that's just a handy little technique I use sometimes for giving the long exposure look to water. I did say I've been coming to this location for around 15 years. But this video is a record of what happened over a couple of hours of a vlog. And the shots haven't been great. And that's the lot of a vlogger. You gotta take what you get on the day and you turn up and make the video. I'd like to emphasize though that the opportunities that are available at this location and the light is good. I almost feel this video has been a little unfair to the location, if that makes sense. So here are a few photos that I feel are better at representing this location than those at today.
So that's it from me at the Upper Lake in Killarney. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like or a comment below. You might think about subscribing and you'll be notified of my next video. It also helps YouTube just to spread around the video that little bit more and help me to develop the channel. So thank you very much for watching, and until next time, stay safe and bye for now.